Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody.
Decided to change it up a little bit there.
Look, I am so happy Logan's wearing a black t-shirt.
I thought, I was like, Peter's gonna have one on. We're gonna be the all blacks.
I wore my church shirt today.
Yeah,
I wear this shirt to all church events.
Yeah,
because it's comfortable.
Well, we were so rebellious the last episode. I was like, we just got to wear black for these.
Right. Yeah, we got to be somber.
I had to temper it down just a little bit. Yeah. No, I had a good time on that last episode.
I did too. That was good.
I was talking to Stacy about it. I said, I don't know why, but for the last few episodes, we've had way too much fun doing these, just cutting up the whole time. I don't know why.
Yeah, we were a little light on comments this week. It makes me wonder if maybe we didn't offend anybody, did we?
I know. What's the deal, folks?
We still got our troopers though.
Man.
Rhonda, she said one of the first times I taught children's church, it was the lesson, and it was this lesson, and all I could do was think, what the heck? Good thing Shrek had not come out yet, or I would have heard Donkey's voice.
Yeah,
so true.
Yep, some Eddie Murphy.
Our good friend Jay, he says, so this guy had sex with a donkey to gain Moses-like powers, huh? Seems like a supervillain origin story written by the furries.
Yeah.
Okay. You put a little too much thought into that one, Jay. So you've been ruminating on that one a little too long.
Ruminating. I like what you did there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amber says, poor donkey. And then she said, for you, Peter, fantastic Klingon joke.
Thank you.
She said, Lord have mercy, that is funny.
Are you a Trekkie? Is that what they call them?
Trekkie.
Yeah, are you a Trekkie, Amber?
Maybe Amber is.
Are you?
Yeah.
No, I never
You're
got
a Trekkie?
Star Trek.
I'm not.
I've never watched one episode.
I used to watch it, the original one.
I've
every
seen
now and
them
then.
in passing, but I've never was like...
What is it, live long and prosper?
Yep.
I don't know, one of those things.
That's it. Spock. Yep.
Yeah.
I always thought that William Shatner was very overly melodramatic.
We must go to the further sector of the universe.
My William Shatner knowledge is what is that?
The Michael Myers mask?
No, that is
true.
The creature at 30,000 feet or whatever, where the Twilight Zone episode,
There's
something on the wing. Have you seen that?
Yes.
And it's like a little. The part that always trips me out, he looks out there and it's this like fuzzy thing, and all of a sudden it goes, and it flies off the wing. Like it just sinks his arms up.
Okay, speaking of Twilight Zone, you will never guess what happened to me today.
I don't know.
Was it on Double Bridges Road?
No,
I was just thinking that.
Okay. It was actually out of my yard.
Okay.
You stepped in a pile of dog crap.
No, I did not. Thank the Lord, because I would have had to repent for some things that I said. No, I was sitting on my front porch drinking some coffee, and a big old dump truck pulled in the gravel parking lot, and my little Chihuahua goes chasing all the way almost into the road.
Oh gosh,
Sophie, no.
Yeah, and so I got to get up now, and I got to go after and everything, and I raised my hand like this, and a wasp got me right there, the same exact place. I mean, the same, right in the flesh.
Man, that hurt too, didn't it?
Oh, it hurt like crazy.
See, now I'm scared because that means I'm next.
You're next.
It's like, I wasn't even I wasn't near a door. I wasn't near a window. I was in open space. And this guy just comes out of nowhere and just nails me.
No.
Oh, that's it hurts right there, man.
That's where my wife used to pinch me when I was saying stuff, embarrassing.
So if
at a
you were
party.
drinking coffee on your porch, that must have been what?
About 12 o'clock.
I was going to say 3.
It was about 3 o'clock because this was my afternoon coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had been up. In fact, I got up early today.
What time did you get up today?
Me too.
I got up at 8:10.
Well, that is early for you.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I got up at 8 o'clock today.
Oh, you beat me.
Yeah, and Riley Kennedy, if you call me at 8 a.m. again, we will fight.
It's just like my brother used to say, good friends rarely call before 10.
And I got woke up at 8 o'clock, and I answer the phone. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
And he goes, wake up, sucker. And I'm like, why?
Why?
And he goes, if I'm awake, you got to be awake. And I was like, no, I don't.
I don't know if that's a good friend or not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, yeah, that's a brutal spot to get stung. Hurts. Pat, you better be watching.
Look, and here's the thing: is ever since this rain come through, I've noticed yellow jackets nesting in my yard.
Oh man,
under my willow
that's
tree.
Probably where it came from.
And I've been so paranoid.
Those darn things are in the grass.
Did you say rat farts?
I don't even know what I said, honestly.
I cut my grass today, and like they would come out, so I had to like fly across the yard as I was mowing. So like, watch, I'm gonna get got now.
I was angry at my dog for making me get up, and then I was even more angry at my dog because I got stung by a wasp or yellow jacket, whatever it was. I don't know.
Oh, I hate them things.
And it was the same deal too because it hung there for a second. I had to
cling on. It'll cling on to you.
Yeah. Oh.
And it'll tag you more than one time if you don't get it off fast enough.
Well, I think that will go because my arm swelled up.
Mine did too.
Yeah, it took me some time.
I don't know if it's still swollen.
Yeah, it'll tag you a few times, man.
Yeah.
They're vicious.
Yes.
Well, you got wait. You read the comments. Well, guys, we need you to do a couple of things.
First of all, we need more comments than just our few,
our
troopers.
super troopers.
Yes,
we do.
exactly.
We do.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
If you don't, we're going to sick some wasps after you. So comment below, hit the like button, hit subscribe,
hit the thumbs up,
and hit the bell.
Me and Logan have been talking about shooting a horror film, and so you might be victim.
That's right.
If you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't make us kill you off in a movie.
In the first 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and comment. Let us know. We want to hear some feedback from you guys.
Yep, we do.
Leave us ratings. I haven't checked our ratings in a while.
I haven't either.
Have we got any emails?
No, we have not gotten any emails. And I want you guys to again go to RevReb at hollygrovechurch.com.
I love it. It's never going away.
We want to hear questions that you have. We'd love to do a question answer episode in these next couple of months.
That would be great.
That would be awesome.
Just random rapid fire questions.
Yes.
And we'll all pretend like we're biblical experts.
I don't know if we have the ability. Could we ever do a live show?
Yes, we could.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe one night we'll do a live show.
We could actually stream one live, and it would be right there on the channel.
Yep.
We could.
It would post it up automatically for you.
So we could set up a live, like in the FLC or something.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
And then
people could come and that would be cool.
You could meet the Reb in person.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Because your buddy Alan would fly in from California for that.
Of course he would.
Yes.
We would expect him to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we got listeners sprinkled all over
the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're nationwide. We need y'all's help to get global.
That's right.
So Pat, where was Solomon's temple located?
Jerusalem?
On the side of his head.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's very true.
Good
Logan,
job.
what kind of man was Boaz before he got married?
Of what?
Ruthless.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very true.
This is where we're going tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, man.
So we got ourselves kicked off, right? Yeah. So we're
I don't hate it.
I mean, it is what it is. There's nothing like good church dad jokes, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
So this is our next installment of Weird Things in the Bible.
Yep.
And because last week's was so very tame and very, we decided to up it a notch.
It did. This did tickle me because we were talking Sunday, and it's like, what are we going to talk about? And you're like, well, I feel like we need to dial it back a little bit. So
we were a little, we got into the risque content. So let's do
nothing risque about this one.
Nothing at all. We're gonna talk about Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah,
Sodom and Gomorrah,
the cleanest thing in Scripture.
Yeah, boy, this is weird though, and I just couldn't let this one go.
Sodom and Gomorrah is one of those things I feel like everyone is curious about.
I know,
but we're all scared to talk about.
I know,
at least more than surface level.
Yeah.
What do you know about Sodom and Gomorrah, Logan?
Well, my immediate thought is it is the Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt.
Yeah.
Don't look back, and she just has to look. Because I hate to say it, I'm a curious fellow myself. I'd be the one to be like, I'd have to struggle not to look back. I want to see a city engulfed in flames. Come on.
When I think of Sodom and Gomorrah, I think of my grandparents.
California.
Yeah, well, I think of my grandparents saying, "Well, this is the modern day Sodom. This is modern day Gomorrah."
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that so much.
Okay, so
what do you think?
Well, I thought a lot of different stuff before I really got into putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. It is really multifaceted, multi-level, and it's not at all what we sort of imagine on the surface level.
And you were saying this before we got on air, that it permeates entire Scripture.
It is everywhere in Scripture. It absolutely is. It ranks right up there with the flood narrative. In fact, I think that Sodom and Gomorrah is mentioned as many, if not more times, than Adam himself. So I mean, this is like a momentous event. This is an important biblical event.
Yeah,
and so it's a lot more. I mean, really, our kind of basic understanding of Sodom and Gomorrah is that these were two exceedingly wicked cities, and they messed up so bad that God decided to completely destroy them.
You hear that, New York and LA?
Well, but that Vegas, hey, what happens
Sin
in Gomorrah stays in Gomorrah, right? Yeah. But it's a little bit confusing because, I mean, how much wickedness has there been in the world? How much is there now? How wicked is too wicked? When do we tip the scales? It's like, every time a natural disaster comes through,
it's like, is this it?
Oh, there it is. See,
and it's
that's what
funny
happened.
too. It's time periods, because would you call Berlin a peaceful city in 1940?
That's what I'm talking about.
Today, I've been to Berlin. It's beautiful and it's nice, and people are really, really nice to you.
But it wasn't always that way,
right?
And so there has to be more to it. Than just bad behavior
and a situational thing.
I've had family before that says, like, that's why California has all them wildfires and like all this.
I know. You remember Hurricane Katrina?
Yep.
Oh yeah, New Orleans.
God just had enough of New Orleans.
That Mardi Gras thing had to go.
It's like
too many beads be flying down there,
All right, so Peter, when you go to Mardi Gras, I'm kidding.
Explain that to me, Pat.
What do you mean by that?
What are the beads for?
How do you get those beads?
That's right. I just went down to New Orleans to witness on the streets.
Did a lot of witnessing down there.
Lord have mercy. My wife and I honeymooned in New Orleans.
Really?
And we had a great
Where'd you
time.
go, Baton Rouge?
No, we stayed. Well, we did not stay
on the block on the
Bourbon Street,
right
in the French Quarter.
We were in the
you.
French Quarter. In fact, we were across the street from Café du Monde, where the beignets are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love them things.
Every morning I would walk across the road, get our breakfast, and it was.
Did y'all take the train
delightful.
down?
Yes, we did.
Did you get any beads?
I did not get any beads.
Peter got beads, and Karen gave him a black eye.
It was. I gave the beads to my wife, though. It was our honeymoon.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. You were a married man.
Yeah.
Hey.
So Kristen and Kayla are going la 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 la.
They were legal beads. Put it that way. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, nice right turn.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So what we need to do here is we need to get some of the backstory here. Okay. So where Sodom and Gomorrah come into play is, after the Tower of Babel incident.
Yep.
God basically scatters the nations and says, I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Right.
For now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm going to call the people for myself, and I'm going to focus all my attention on these people. So he calls Abraham. Abram is his name at the time. And he tells Abram to just go to a place, and I'll tell you when you get there. Abram, for whatever reason, brings his nephew Lot along. And so Abram and Lot, if you're tracking along, it's in Genesis 13, and they get to this land. And it's a huge land. God says, this is your land. Okay. So Abram says, Lot, I don't want to choose. You choose which side you want, because, one little piece of land is not going to be enough for all of us. So Lot chooses the lush green valley, and Abraham goes up into the, kind of hill country, that kind of thing. Well, by the time we get to, it says, Lot chose for himself all the valley of the Jordan. And so they separated from each other. And then by the time you get to chapter 14, it says that, Lot sees these two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, and he's like, he keeps inching his tents over, getting closer and closer. So, by the time it's all sort of said and done, it says, and now Lot lived in Sodom.
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah, it was just too enticing to him. So this big thing happens where there's these nations coming after Sodom and Gomorrah, and Abram is fearful for Lot's life, and so he steps in and helps the kings defeat everybody, and so it's it's a big deal. He kind of gets some goodwill and some things like that, but then God comes to Abram again at the end of chapter 14, makes this promise to Abraham that all the nations would be blessed, that his descendants will be more than the stars and the sand and all this kind of stuff, and then in chapter 15, the Lord promises Abram that he's going to bear a son. Mm-hmm. And Abram says, what are you going to give me, since I am childless and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And so God says, no, it's going to come. It's going to come from you. Everything's going to be good. So we get into chapter 16. He takes matters into his own hands, and you get the whole Hagar and Ishmael thing. And that's a disaster. And then comes the covenant. Mm-hmm. And so he does all this stuff. And then we get to chapter 18. This is where it starts to get weird. Okay, so it says in verse 1, it says, now the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre while he was sitting at the tent door in the heat of the day. Now, this is an interesting kind of picture here, because we have a mountain or hill, we have trees. It's the heat of the day. It's very reminiscent of the Garden of Eden story.
Yeah.
Where the Lord comes walking in the windy part of the day.
And this is after Abram changed his ID to Abraham.
That's it. The covenant's all done, everything. Yep. And it says, he lifted up his eyes and looked, behold, 3 men were standing opposite him. And he sees them, and he runs from the tent door to meet them and bows himself to the earth. So what kind of clue do you get about that?
Him running out to meet him?
To bowing himself to the earth.
I don't know.
I mean, he
knows that they're holy.
They're divine.
He can. I mean, do they tell him, or is he just
not yet?
So he can just. There's something about them that he knows.
And we've said it several times on the show. I think whenever you see someone angelic,
they
always just fall out.
Did he have fire in his eyes and a sword drawn?
No, did not. They really just looked like men. Three of them. And so he says, let me get some water to wash your feet. Let me bring a piece of bread. And then he goes, oh, wait, these are like divine beings. So he runs aside and says, hey, Sarah, go kill me a calf and have them prepare it. And then Abram takes the flour and makes the cakes himself. He kneads the bread
and milk.
And he gets them out there. And so these, they sat down and they were eating together. And he said, oh, well, where's your wife? It's like, she's in the tent. And so one of the angels, divine beings, whatever you want to call them, said, I'm going to return to you at this time next year. And by this time next year, Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Mm-hmm. And Sarah's over here.
She said, I'm too old.
And she laughs. And I love this phrase. She says, she laughed to herself, saying, after I have become old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? Like, couldn't you have done this like 50 years ago? Because Abraham's like in his 90s.
Right when can I have retirement?
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, but then we get our first clue.
Hey, my fire alarm is going off in the house.
Really?
Yeah, let me run. Keep going. I'll be right back.
We'll keep
I'll
going.
be right back. We'll make sure everything's all right.
If you see any divine beings along the way, bow yourself to the earth.
That's right. I will.
Okay, so we're going to continue on with the story because it's fascinating in verse 13. And the Lord, capital Lord, said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? So how did we get the Lord in here?
He's got to be one of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got to be. Yeah.
It's Yahweh in person.
Yeah, and then Sarah denies it.
I know. She says, I didn't laugh, because now she's kind of afraid.
Yeah, she's
right?
like, uh-oh.
Yep. And so he says, no, but you did laugh.
Yeah.
And so then it says the men rose up from there and looked down towards Sodom.
Mm-hmm.
So they're up on a hill, a bluff overlooking Sodom. And Abraham walks with them. He's like I don't know what these guys. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what's happening there. And the Lord speaks again, and this is the most curious statement. He's saying this out loud. Abraham's standing right there.
Yeah.
But he's not saying it to Abraham.
Yeah.
He's just thinking to himself out loud.
Yeah. Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do?
Yeah. It's like, guys, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? So, and then he says, since Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and I've chosen him for this, I ought to include him in this whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, for I've chosen him in order that he may command his children, his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, in order that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken about him.
So this has got to be the divine counsel he's talking to.
This is it. And this is our very first clue about how weird this story is going to get.
Yeah.
Because this is the Lord in person. So really it's either Yahweh taking on human form, or it's a Christophany,
yeah.
which is
Jesus.
The second power of Yahweh, which we know is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it is the Lord figure that looks like a man. And the other two, he calls them messengers, calls them angels at one point.
And they don't ever respond to him, do they?
No, they don't say anything back.
So I kind of don't think the Lord's talking to them.
No, not really. He's just speaking it out into thin air. That's exactly what he's doing. But basically, he's sort of inviting Abraham to be a honorary member of the council.
Yeah.
For this one episode.
Yep.
Yeah. And so he says, but then he switches gears. And it says, and the Lord said, the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. Mm-hmm. Exceedingly grave. That's a big word. That's a serious word. This is hearkening back to the flood.
Where they were continuously evil.
Only continuously evil always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is pervasive. It is and so the question then becomes, who is outcrying?
See, that's what I was going to ask, is because it says their outcry and is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave.
Yeah.
So it's, this is just me reading this for one verse as it is victim and accuser. It's victim and perpetrator.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's the victim? If everybody in the cities, both cities, are all evil, who's outcrying?
It's got to be the people of God. But are there any people of God?
That's the key. We're going to find out. Okay, so this is the cool and weird part of this little part. This is a direct hyperlink using the same language as the Cain and Abel narrative.
Yeah.
Where it says that Abel's blood
cries
is
out.
crying out from the ground.
Yep.
So basically what he's saying is that there are basically spirits of those that have been oppressed and have been murdered and have been, that blood is crying out from the ground.
Yep.
The outcry is, he's going to use that language also when Israel is in slavery in Egypt.
Yep.
I heard their outcry. Same kind of thing. So
does he use that language when they're captive in Babylon?
No.
Interesting.
And it's mainly because that is a prescribed amount of time. 70 years they're going to be in Babylon. So it's
That's right.
Say whatever you want.
Yep.
You're going to be there for 70 years. I don't want to hear no outcry. I didn't think about that. Yeah, exactly. So the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great. Their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see if they have done entirely according to its outcry, which has come to me, and if not, I will know.
Do you think he'd know before he even went?
That's why it's we get these foreshadowings of weird, because surely God has to know.
Right.
But yet he wants to go down there and see.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that there's probably a little bit of depth here, because he may be doing this for Abraham. He may be doing it for the council members. Let's go down and see if it's just bad as I think it is.
That's interesting. It's got to be for witnessing.
Yes.
So your house isn't on fire.
No.
Welcome back.
No, that one has the carbon monoxide and fire. So I was like, because I knew it was like, it ain't a fire, but I'm like, man. But I went in there. She said it was going fire, 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 and like all this, and there clearly was no fire. So she moved. I said, move another one in there. So we moved another fire detector in there, and it wasn't going off.
Maybe it's like low battery or something.
I guess so.
That was the outcry.
That was the outcry.
Exactly.
She told me to check her pulse when that comes in.
Okay, so
Yeah, really.
So God's walking down.
But he's not. See, that's what's weird about it. It says, then the men turned away from there and went towards Sodom. But Abraham was still standing before the Lord.
So who's going?
The divine council members, the angels.
Oh, we entered
messengers.
some divine counsel here.
Oh yeah.
All right.
That's exactly who we're dealing with here. It's Yahweh in person and two divine council members.
Gotcha.
Messengers, if you will.
Some Elohim.
That's right.
And then we get into this bizarre little exchange.
The bargaining.
Yeah, the haggling. And it's so funny because have you ever haggled?
Yeah, I'm not a good haggler.
So Abraham literally Jews him down.
I love what you did there.
Right?
Yeah,
That's where it came from. There you go.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because it's like reverse haggling.
Yeah.
Because apparently the Lord is a terrible haggler.
Yeah.
Okay, well then that makes me feel better.
Yeah. He says, and this is Abraham is like, it's almost as if he thinks he needs to teach the Lord a lesson
Right.
about himself.
Okay.
Little divine math.
Sounds a little
'Cause
arrogant
he's,
there.
He's talking to him like, okay, God, I know there's a thing about you, and maybe you've forgotten about you. And so I need to remind you about you. And so he gets into this thing. He says, will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked?
That's the first question he asked God.
Uh-huh.
That's some cojones.
It really is.
Well, I mean, he did just feed him like lamb and curds and all that stuff. So maybe he felt, a little like
Entitled.
justified.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man.
So he says, suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Are you going to sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous who are in it? And then this is where he gives God a lesson.
Yeah.
He says, far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly? He's like indignant here.
That's what I'm saying. That takes some gonads.
I know.
But how cool does the Lord respond to him?
That's so
though?
funny because the Lord says, okay, if there's 50 righteous, I'll spare the cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Abraham goes,
He's like, it might be a stretch to find 50.
Maybe there ain't 50.
he gets humble all of a sudden. He says, I ventured to speak to the Lord, although I am but dust and ashes.
Butt dust?
There we go. He's but dust and ashes. I says, okay, so suppose the 50 righteous are lacking 5. Are you going to destroy the whole city because of 5? And he said, no, if there's 45, I won't destroy it.
Yeah.
And then he goes down again. He says, well, what about 40? And God says, yeah, okay, 40. Yeah, I'll see you 40. And what about 30?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll do 30. And then
God's patient.
He's 20.
I think he's kind of probably chuckling at this
Yeah,
point,
I-
honestly, don't you think?
And I really think this is a Lord messing with Abram. I really do. It's just like, do you really want to see how just I am
But,
Yeah.
and how merciful I am?
But here's the funny thing about it. He goes down to 20. He says, no, 20's good. And he says, well, what about 10? He says, no, I will not destroy it on account of the 10. And as soon as they finished speaking to Abraham, the Lord departed. Abraham returned to his place. Okay, so Abraham stops at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't he go down to 1?
What, do they even find 10?
No, they don't. That's the thing.
You should. Yeah. Why didn't he go down for one person?
I mean, he's pretty sure that his nephew is a righteous person, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe he was even wondering about that.
Yeah.
So he just goes down to 10, and it's like, okay, well, surely I'm going to find 10.
Right.
Okay, so scene change. And now we've got, says, the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom.
Mm-hmm.
So the gate is a place of a judge, a place of this is
Authority.
Yeah, the people would gather and they bring their case. So So Lot's a lot more involved and engaged in Sodom than.
He ain't just an outsider looking in.
No, he's
Yeah.
like on
He
the,
didn't just
on the
move
city
it.
council.
He
you
didn't
know?
just move his tent on the border.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly right. So Lot sees them. He rises to meet them, and he bows down with his face to the ground.
So he recognizes who they are.
He may not know exactly, but he knows that they're divine
Something
beings
about
of some
them.
sort. Yes, exactly. And so he says, "Oh, you need to come to my house. Please come to my house. I'll spend the night. I'll wash your feet. I'll feed you, and then you can rise up early and get on your way, because you really want to rise up early and get on your
get
way.
out of
right?
this place.
I'll tell you
Exactly.
what, divine beings have clean feet and full bellies.
That's exactly right.
Yes, they do.
As well, they should. Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They say, no, we're going to spend the night in the square. They're testing Lot, I think,
Yeah,
right here too.
I think so too.
Uh-huh. Because what are they there for? They're trying to find out how,
Righteous.
or if it's
If
really,
there's any.
or if it's as bad as the
Yep.
outcry said.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So
Wait, my question here is, if it's that awful, why does Lot want to stay there? I mean, because he is aware of how awful it is, because he's literally like, y'all need to. And the weird part is, he recognizes their divinity, and then he also he's got some awareness spiritually.
I mean, why does Schwarzenegger stay in California?
Well, I don't know. He's gotten kind of out there on me here lately, that's the thing. Like, why? Because he's the one that kind of worked his way in there.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, dude, you have the spirituality about you. You recognize the divine beings, but you choose to live in a place that is literally, I mean, it's so bad. You're like, let's sneak in here and get you the crap out of here.
exactly.
Do you
Like,
think
why?
Do you think Lot might have the go along to get along mentality?
Maybe keeping
Well-
up with the Joneses or something.
Lot has clearly found himself a little niche, you know. I mean, he's somehow is, you know, and as we'll find out, you know, he's got a family, he's got 2 daughters, and they are engaged, betrothed to 2 men,
Right.
in that are from the
See, why
city.
you want to raise a family in that?
I don't
Like,
know.
I'm like probing all this. Why you want to? Why?
Well, also at this point too, Abraham is not this big figure
Yeah.
across the
no,
peoples.
he's a nobody.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
he's
so Lot being Abraham's nephew doesn't carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
At this point.
no, you're right. It doesn't. So he urges them strongly. So they went to his house, and he prepared a feast for them, baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Okay, here's where the weirdness starts. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. Now, this is hyperbolic. It probably wasn't every single man.
Yeah.
From, you know, but it's like
An influx.
when you would say the whole blooming town came out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it might not have been everybody, but it was mostly everybody.
Yeah.
And it says, and they called to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us."
So we can cook them a big dinner.
Yeah. We just want to play a little Uno.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
can square dance.
Yeah,
Tummy
that's right.
sticks. Yeah. You know.
So that we may know them.
See, again, I'm like, why do you want to live there? Why do you want to live there?
So that we may have relations with them.
What kind of neighbors you looking for, Lot? Come on, man. God.
Lot goes out to them at the doorway, shuts the door behind him. He says, "Please, my brothers, do not act wickedly like this." And then it gets even weirder, because he says, "Hey, I have 2 daughters who have not had relations with a man. Please let me bring them out to you and do to them whatever you like. Only do nothing to these men, inasmuch they have come under the shelter of my roof."
Yeah. Thanks, Dad.
I mean, okay, what kind of frame of mind is Lot in right now that he says, "No, I don't." I'll
He's
take these."
terrified.
He's at his wit's end.
Yeah.
He has no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Now, I know you'll remember this story in Judges 19. Similar kind of thing, where the guy has a concubine.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
And he throws the concubine out, and they kill her.
But well, I mean, I can see the relate. Like, obviously they relate, but at the same time, like, man, this is your daughters too. You're sending out there.
Well, let's go to Judges 19.
Also, I want you to keep in mind, Lot has direct knowledge about Nephilim,
yeah.
and Lot also has direct knowledge about giving his daughters to the men, as opposed to the men coming out for something other than
Yeah. What he worried
men.
about the creatures that could come forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Judges 19.
That's where they chop her up, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's another weird story that might be a little too graphic for us to.
Oh man, come on now.
I
If
don't
we get
know.
into
I don't
Samson, Samson's pretty graphic.
We may
That's
as well.
true.
We
That's
may
true.
as well go ahead and say this now. If you 3, 2, 1, send your children away.
No, this is PG.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it PG.
Look, my kids have seen Braveheart. They're all right with this.
Yeah. Well, this guy comes to Gibeah.
Yeah.
And once again, he's out in the square. An old man says, "Hey, let me take care of you, and don't spend the night in the open square."
Yeah.
Same exact language right there. And it says, while they were making merry, behold, the men of the city, certain worthless fellows, surrounded the house, pounding the door. They spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, "Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may have relations with him."
Man, that's crazy parallel.
I know. It's
Wow,
almost,
that is.
it's kind of the exact same thing. And so the man, the owner of the house, goes out to them and says, "No, my fellows, please do not act so wickedly.
Whoa.
Since this man has come into my house, do not commit this act of folly." And he says, "Here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. Please let me bring them out, that you may do whatever you wish." And so the men were insistent. They wanted the man. And so he basically throws the concubine out there and slams the door.
Yeah.
And then we get the whole carnage scene.
Didn't they send it to the 12 tribes?
Uh-huh.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's yeah. If we do that story, we'll get into that.
That is a crazy parallel. I
it's-
mean, the mirror, the
it's
exact
almost
same.
exactly the same.
Yeah,
That's
even the
exactly right.
language.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I know.
What's the deal with the men? I mean, well, what's it got to be old Freddie Mercury out here? Come on now.
Well, it has less to do. In fact, it has nothing to do with same-sex attraction.
Yeah.
It has to do with the type
Power.
of person that's in there.
and they want to assert power over.
It's power over. Yeah. It because they come in a gang, shall we
Yeah.
say, and so
So had they asserted power over Lot at this point?
I have no idea. I'm thinking maybe not.
Yeah.
But I can't be totally sure, because if they would have asserted power over Lot, then he probably wouldn't be able to be a judge and sit in the gate.
Right.
Yeah. So had Lot asserted power over them.
I don't think so.
I mean,
either.
the group of guys I run around with, we can settle our differences amongst an arm wrestle. You know, like,
That's what I'm talking about.
yes.
Yeah, watermelon seed spitting contest,
Yes.
something.
Yeah, I'd be like, I think we can come up with something better here. Yeah.
Exactly
You ever
right.
heard of that tic-tac-toe?
But this is, once again, we are dealing with barbaric cultures.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, and there's
Physical
all these
dominance.
dynamics going on. So they don't want anything to do with his two daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just say stand aside.
Stand aside.
Did his two daughters hear him offer him up?
Things would have been pretty awkward after that. So then they say, furthermore, this one came in as an alien, talking about Lot. He's a foreigner. And already he's acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them. So I was like, when we get done with them, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
So that was the deal. And so they pressed hard against Lot and came near to break the door. But the angels, reached out their hands, brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness.
I love it.
Both small and see, you didn't your grandmother tell you? You do that, you'll go blind.
I knew it was coming and I still laughed.
I gotta give you the laugh track on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, and they wearied themselves trying to find the doorway, and So the men said to Lot, "Whom else have you here? A son-in-law and your sons and your daughters, whomever you have in the city, bring them out of the place, for we are about to smoke this place." So the the Lord is saying, "Hey, we're going to go down there and see if it's really that bad."
Yeah.
And they're going, "It's that bad.
It's that bad.
It is absolutely."
We learned immediately it's that bad.
Exactly.
I
Dinner
love.
ain't even digested yet.
Yeah, I got to tell you, because I love a good vengeance film.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that all these dudes are action fools, and so they're just like boom and just blind a bunch
Yeah.
of them,
that's it.
and then they're like, "You better skedaddle because we're about to burn this son of a gun to the ground here."
That's exactly what they're saying.
Burn it down, Pookie.
Yes.
And it says, because their outcry has become so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it.
Yeah.
So Lot goes and speaks to his sons-in-law and he says, "Up, get out of this place. The Lord will destroy the city." But he appeared to his sons-in-law to be jesting. They thought he was joking. Mess around and find out. Okay. So it got to be morning, and the angel said, "Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated.
So do they all live in the same house?
Yeah. There would have been a household.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Multiple rooms.
they wouldn't have. So would his son-in-laws not have seen the angels?
No, probably not. Probably not, because they wouldn't have been living in the house yet.
Okay. I got you.
He
So
went
his
to them
daughter
in the middle of the night, and
Okay.
had a little conference.
Yeah.
And so they're going like, "Forget about the son-in-laws. Get your daughters and your wife. Take them away."
But he hesitated.
I know. So the angels, it says, they seized his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his 2 daughters. It's like, "No, you are coming with us."
Yes.
And it says, "For the compassion of the Lord was upon him."
Yep.
You don't hear that often, do you?
And
And they didn't find 10,
no, they barely found 4.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the sons-in-laws didn't make it.
Right.
And the compassion of the Lord, I think we need to look at it this way. I don't think the Lord was happy with Lot. I think the compassion of the Lord was on Abraham's behalf.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so as well.
And, it was an inconvenience for Abraham to bring Lot in the first place.
Yeah.
And now Abraham's had to go to war to save him.
Yeah.
And now here's Abraham bargaining with God. And now the angels are going like, okay. And the Lord's saying, "Get him out of there, because, Abraham still loves his nephew. And so let's go ahead and do it." And it came about when they brought them outside that one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, and do not stay anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, lest you be swept away." And if I'm Lot, I'm saying, okay,
Later.
Let's get out of here.
I don't need to be told twice.
Yeah.
But he bargains with them again. And
Yeah.
this is like, the Lord's got to be saying, "Abraham, this is why I told you not to bring him."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's just nothing but a troublemaker and a
Yeah.
whiner, and he's soft, and he's, it's like, anyway, he says, "Oh no, my lords. Your servant has found favor in your sight, and you've magnified your loving kindness, which you've shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest the disaster overtake me and I die." What he's saying is, I'm getting old.
It's too far.
I got an arthritic knee. I got an old football injury. I don't think I can climb up all those mountains. What's happened is he's gotten citified,
Yeah.
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 and he doesn't want to go live in the cave, even though that's where he's going to end up. But he says, there's a town near enough to flee to, and it is small. That word is insignificant. And it's a town called Zoar, which literally means insignificant.
Nice.
They just named the town for what it was.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so he says, "Please let me escape there. Is it not small, that my life may be saved?" And so he says, "Okay, that's fine. And I promise that when we trash this place, we won't trash this little town."
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, "Hurry, escape there, for I can't do anything until you arrive there." The name of the town is called Zoar. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zoar. So I'm assuming that's about afternoon, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Risen over the earth?
Yeah.
I guess. And then it says, "Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven."
And this is interesting because we know this whole Lot scenario has taken place in Sodom.
Yes.
And so why is Gomorrah lumped into this?
It's not just Sodom and Gomorrah. Read the next verse.
That's right.
He overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities, plural, and what grew on the ground.
So that's the Lord saying, I will smite Sodom and everyone who looks like Sodom.
Yeah. It's exactly right. And Zoar was going to get trashed in the process,
That's
but
right.
now Lot's going to live there.
Yeah,
So,
they're good for them. Yeah, Lot's knee was bad.
ACL, man.
I got a lot of water on the knee. But his wife from behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Salt. What? Okay. Why a pillar of salt?
So they would never have bland soup again.
That's right.
Because nothing comes from salt.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. What do they always use to bless their offerings?
Oh yeah, salt was part of the offering. Yeah, for sure. I was reading through some questions and comments today, and one smart aleck guy said, "I think it'd have been cool if he like cut off her arm and took her, used her for salt for their food."
Like, well, here we go,
Shut you off a little bit.
We'll never run out.
Yeah. Is it because nothing grows in salt?
I think it. I'll get to this little article in a second. There's a scientific article that is very fascinating, but she became a pillar of salt, I think, because of the aftermath of the blast.
Yeah.
I think this is just what happened. That she was supposed to keep moving. In fact, let's just get to it right now because I searched all day for this.
I thought you meant is there a meaning? Because, I'm thinking of I know y'all have been to Salt Lake City.
Well, she's an older lady, so let's say she's a buck.
She's
20,
kind of dried up anyways.
25.
Yeah,
she's
that's a lot of
dusty
salt, man.
bones. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of I don't know, part of me is like pillar of salt. I wonder if the town was vanquished to salt because it's like Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
That place is barren.
It absolutely is.
It's a depressing place. Nothing green over there.
Yeah.
But then you get out of Salt Lake City, you get into Heber. It's lush and green.
I know.
So maybe that's kind of what I'm wondering. Was Sodom and Gomorrah turned to salt?
No. See, that's the thing. And I looked for as much as I could for some sort of theological meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really anything there. There might be something there that I just couldn't find.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find anything that would, but it's very careful to say
Pillar
that
of
she
salt.
turned into a pillar of salt. So I'm going to read a part of this little article here. This is a scientist guy. This is from BioLogos, the national organization that merges science and faith. Okay. So he says, some of you probably saw the headlines last fall. This is in 2019 about a meteoric airburst destroying Sodom. There was a big, scientific, they were delving into all that stuff. He says there is a BioLogos thread about it, but no one in the thread mentioned Lot's wife, which is a bit disappointing. And he said, I spoke to the researchers. They let me see an article that has not been published. They were hoping to publish it in this big publication organization, but it ended up getting published in a small organization, so they won't publish it twice, apparently. But anyway, so he says, I think it's time she got her due. I think I know how she turned into a pillar of salt. Okay, so he goes through the scriptures there. And he says the order was escape to the mountain, don't stay in the plain. Given what happened, this was great advice. Lot bargained with the angels to let him go to an insignificant town, which is literally what it means.
Covington.
And yeah, that's right. And so they're really close to the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Salty area.
They were relatively high above the lake, about 30 miles from Sodom. And they were able to make a 30-mile trip in one day. So
They had to run 30 miles?
Yeah.
Dang, my knees would be blown out of it.
Absolutely.
I ain't making it.
Yeah, I'd be like, where is that insignificant town?
So they left in the morning. They made it 30 miles by early evening, shall we say.
Yeah.
So it says sometime late during that day, just as Lot and his family were approaching Zoar, a meteor zoomed into the atmosphere and in an airburst about 1 kilometer high, completed the destruction of the city and set in motion a sequence of physical events that led to Lot's wife being covered in salt.
That would be crazy.
I know. He says meteors entering the Earth's atmosphere have extremely rapid velocities with respect to the Earth, 15 to 20 kilometers per second.
That's moving.
Wow.
When they hit the thicker part of the atmosphere, the pressure on the meteor exceeds the molecular forces holding the meteor together. At that point, the meteor will break into much smaller pieces and effectively dump their kinetic energy into the atmosphere. The altitude at which this happens depends upon the speed, the type of material the meteor is made of, the angle of entry, and the density of the meteor. The thing to remember is that when this event happens, megatons of TNT worth of energy are imparted to the air, which causes high temperatures, a blast wave to propagate downward. And he says you can watch a short video of what happened at Chelyabinsk, Russia.
Yeah, that was early 2000s, late 90s?
Something like that, yes. And so it said these other two scientists say the airburst had to have happened around 650 meters above sea level so as to contain the damage within the walls of the Dead Sea Valley. It didn't extend beyond that. This would mean it was about 1 kilometer above the Dead Sea Plain. If it happened at a higher altitude, it would have affected a larger area. So they estimate the airburst released 10 megatons of TNT of energy, which is enough to flatten the mud brick buildings twice over. They also, archaeologists found melted rock and bubbles in melted zircons, which would require a temperature of 8,000 to 12,000 degrees Celsius for a few milliseconds. No wonder when Abraham went to the edge of the Dead Sea Valley in the next verse, it said, the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a furnace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the airburst hit the water of the Dead Sea, two things would happen in the blink of an eye. The surface level would become superheated water, meaning the water should boil, but the pressure is too high for the water to boil at that instant. And the surface of the water becomes a tsunami, or creates a tsunami traveling south. The water's surface would rebound eventually, and Dead Sea waters would cover the land in the north in a tsunami. So what's happened to these cities is it hits the cities, it destroys the cities, and basically creates a crater, and the sea goes over the top of it.
Yeah.
So they're buried somewhere underwater, we think. Okay. So at the northern end of the Dead Sea, when the superheated water was relieved of its pressure, it would explode into steam and possibly melted salt or gaseous salt. And also read that there was, that pitchy tar-like substance that they built the Tower of Babel with. Yeah. Bitumen, I think it's called.
We did a study on that too long ago. I don't remember.
That part of the land was everywhere, and it's flammable. So that's where the fire comes from. Okay, so it says it would explode into steam and possibly melted salt or gaseous salt. Salt melts at 801 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point of salt, not salt water, just salt, is 1,465 degrees Celsius.
Well, they had the heat for sure.
Lots of heat. Angels told Lot to get to the mountain, don't stay in the plain. This was wise advice, because the airburst was going to cause a tsunami of biblical proportions. It would superheat the surface water for quite a ways south. They were further south by the time the meteor struck, so the temperatures were less than the wickedly hot 12,000 Celsius. So if Lot's wife was lollygagging behind, looking back longingly at where her life had been, and she had not reached a sufficiently high elevation and distance from the event, she would have been hit with superheated water. When that water touched her relatively cold body compared to the water temperature of 120 Celsius or more, it would have deposited a layer of salt and anhydrite all over everything it touched as the liquid exploded into steam. The salt and anhydrite would cool, turning her into a pillar of salt with a human body for a core. Lot's wife would look like a pillar of stone.
Wow.
Since apparently Lot could see what happened to his wife, it means he and his daughters barely escaped the death zone.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was like, did he get there and did he pull out one of them like expanding scopes and was looking through there and he sees a little pile of salt? He's like, she's turning a dang pile of salt.
It was Kofer. That's what it was called.
Well,
the pitch.
Okay, very good.
If he was that close, I bet he was glad he wore his brown pants that day.
Well, see, this is what I'm kind of curious about too, because
he just took his britches off and left them there.
Ain't no saving them things after that.
But remember, it says that all this happens in milliseconds.
Yeah,
and so it's like whoosh, and then it's like done.
Could you imagine the sound?
Oh my gosh.
Think about, consider this verse. It says, but his wife from behind him looked back and she became a pillar of salt.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if that meant she stayed behind, like a ways. She's like, no, I want to see this.
Yeah. And there's some midrash material that makes some good points along the way. Is that Lot's wife is leaving behind not only something but people, her future son-in-laws and whoever else that she was acquainted with. And so it was probably less about the spectacle and more about thinking about
the people.
But regardless, she got really salty about it.
And I wonder if that's how the Dead Sea became so salinated.
Well, that and there's no there's water coming in, but there's no water going out.
Right.
That's part of it. But it could very well be from that.
Yeah, that's
from the bones.
Yeah. So then to kind of work our way through the even weirder part of the story. Abraham gets up early in the morning, goes to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley, and he saw the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a furnace. Thus it came about, when God destroyed the cities of the valley, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived. So that tells you right there that he spared Lot because of Abraham.
Yeah.
And he also said destroyed the cities of the valley, not just Sodom and Gomorrah.
That's exactly right. He just torched the whole thing. Yeah, the whole darn valley.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to our little epilogue here, we've got to answer some important questions.
Okay.
Because this is a huge event.
Yeah.
And so we started out, kind of by saying, well, okay, were they just exceedingly wicked? It's like, okay,
sounds like it.
Yeah, but they weren't the only exceedingly wicked people on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And why do we not see an event like that going forward at all?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we see all of these wicked nations. We see Israel being wicked.
Yeah, and this is before the Exodus. This is before any of that.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. And God basically calls Israel a harlot. It's like, I don't even want anything more to do with you. You know. But God never sends a meteor again. And so what was it about this particular situation? You hinted at it, and you're absolutely on the right track.
I think it's God showing his mercy among the debased, crazy world.
Yes. But there's something about this whole...
The Nephilim?
Yeah, the divine being angle. There's...
Oh, okay. You're talking about where they said, send the men out to us.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't want them. The men didn't want to have relations with them. Well, depending on how you look at divine counsel. Okay. If the divine being is what we would consider on the human race is female, that would be why they wanted them.
I think, well, let's go back for a moment. This is one of our very early podcasts where we talked about Genesis 6, where the sons of God, the Nephilim, the Elohim, the rebellious divine created beings.
Yeah. They were trying to make new Nephilim. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who need a little bit of backfill.
They're like, what in heaven's name are y'all talking about?
Genesis 6 says the sons of God, and this would be the divine council. They are called Elohims. They saw that the daughters of man were, and a lot of translations say beautiful or fair or desirable.
Yeah.
The actual word is good. They saw that they were good.
Yeah.
And I believe more than anything that that we need to look at that from, they saw that the daughters of men could be useful.
Yep. Yep.
I think that they literally said, I think we can take over the world.
Yeah.
The men of Sodom.
Well, no, I'm talking about in Genesis 6.
Okay, gotcha.
Sons of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rebellious divine council members. Okay, so they're thinking, okay, if we cohabitate, procreate with these humans, we can make a hybrid divine and human creature.
Yep.
Be like a superhuman. And that's exactly what happened.
And God said, we ain't playing that again.
I think we have what the language here is a direct hyperlink back to Genesis 6. There's no way that we can ignore this.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it would have mattered if the two men were men or women. I think this had been leading up to this for quite some time.
So you think the men in Sodom were thinking we want to make ourselves powerful kind of thing?
Think about it this way.
Yeah.
They never beat on Lot's door until tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah. They didn't want
Just the back door.
They didn't want. Yeah. I said we were trying to keep this.
I
PG.
couldn't help it.
I know.
You just threw that one up
This
there.
is softball. Here you go.
It just came out.
I know.
I sat there for a second and I waited.
Had to say it. But no, and they didn't. They didn't ever go after Lot.
Yeah.
Up until this point.
Until these visitors.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so
And they also didn't care about Lot being as a judge.
No.
Until this point.
Until then. Yeah.
So there was, at this point, because I'm trying to think now. All right, so at this point, the Nephilim should have been wiped out
Yes, they were.
in the flood. So yeah, because I was going to say, I don't guess there'd have been any Nephilim remaining in Sodom at this point, which, I mean, wasn't there a potential?
Okay. So if you read some of the Second Temple literature, First Enoch,
Don't they claim some survived?
Well, yes, they do. But
it has to for Goliath to exist.
and it says in Genesis 6, the Nephilim were on the land and were there afterward.
Yeah.
And so that we know that happens. But the Second Temple literature makes a lot of allusions to the activity of the divine council, the rebellious divine council.
Yeah.
Okay? So they say that they would regularly visit or have a meeting with the humans, and in those meetings they would impart to them secret knowledge.
Yep.
Secret knowledge about
Weapons, medicines.
Yeah. All this stuff, things that would advance them, but were also very, very dangerous for them.
Yeah.
So what I think is happening here is that this kind of activity had been going on for quite some time. Hence the outcry.
Yeah.
Where's the outcry coming from? It's coming from, yes, the blood of the slain, but it's also, I think, coming from the spirit world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like alarm bells are going off.
Yep.
This is going to happen again.
Yep.
And so when the Lord says, let's go down there and see if it's really this bad, I think this is what they're looking for is, okay, where's the evidence of this
Could this happen
desire
again?
Yeah, this desire to make this happen again.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that they want to mate with angels.
Yeah.
With the divine council. And think about this. The men came to Abraham. He immediately knows they're divine. They come to Lot in public.
Yep.
And Lot falls down on his face. Well, who's seen him do this?
Right.
Anybody
Everybody.
that's at the gate.
Yeah.
And so they're going, oh, there's this divine sort of creature.
They Eminem it.
Yeah.
We got one shot.
Right.
Now they were men though. These dudes not know biology.
Well,
Come on, man.
yeah. I honestly, I would not be at all shocked if the men, obviously they wanted a power play kind of thing. That's what the man on man thing was all about. But I think that once they felt like they had conquered them, then they would just, force them to mate with the women. And,
Gotcha.
All that.
Gotcha.
They wanted the power play first.
Yeah.
Yeah. But-
Which is crazy to think.
Tower of
know.
Babel,
I mean,
man.
it's crazy to think you're going to outpower an angel.
Well,
Jacob wrestled.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess they sort of thought, well, they're in human form.
Yeah.
As long as they're in human
That's
form.
why I just love the fact they struck them blind.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like, you think you're bad?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just
No.
going to, I'm
Now
not even
you're-
going to put any
yeah.
effort into this.
Now
You're
you're
blind.
Yeah. Now you're blind. You know,
Wait till you won't even see what's coming next.
yeah, it's
You're
like-
going to hear it
it's
for
like
1 millisecond.
It's like pepper spray. You know?
Yeah.
I saw this comedian one time. He says, I just want to go around pepper spraying everybody. It's like somebody makes me mad. It's like, boop, now you can't say, So, there you go.
I tell you what, I've been sprayed and tased, and I would rather get tased 1,000 times. Than
I've
pepper
heard
sprayed.
that. Yeah, I've heard the pepper is worse.
I don't want either one.
Oh man,
I'm just going to be like a puppy and just roll over and expose my belly.
man, being sprayed sucks so bad.
No, it's not good. Not
It
good.
sucks.
So this is okay. So I'm going to read a little part of this article. This is a very academic article.
Okay.
So there's some big words in it, but but
We'll talk slow, Logan.
Yes.
so he's talking about this sort of principle of the relationship between the divine beings and the humans.
Okay.
And that because humans are in some way, even at this point in our fallen state, connected with the divine, we have divine aspirations.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just this always kind of there that we, and so, we always want to connect with the divine. We have crystals and we have seances, all the stuff. And this is why these things are dangerous and evil, because this is what we're not meant to do.
Yeah.
And so this says the text clearly has in mind, he's talking about Genesis 3, when God says, behold, the human one has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. This is after Adam and Eve eat of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay. So he kicks them out of the garden so they won't eat the tree of life and live forever in that fallen state. Okay. So he says the text clearly has in mind the most fundamental relation and distinction in the created order, that between the human world and the divine world. The expression one of us refers to the divine ones who make up the council of Yahweh, and comes into the text as an implicit conversation within the council at the point where a possible breach in the relationship is present. It's like, oh no, they've crossed over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where a human appropriation of the divine world is potential, and the divine world must say no. Yeah. You see, it says the verse must be seen against verse 5, which also refers to the divine worlds, the gods, and you will be like gods, Elohim, knowing good and evil. It says, the judgment upon the human creature in the Yahwistic story arises out of the realization that the human creature brings about a kind of disorder in the universe when he breaks through the boundary distinction between the divine world and the human world.
Yeah.
In other words, it throws the whole cosmos out of balance.
So
Yeah.
that's
Out
why
of
the
order.
aliens won't land here.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And that is confirmed in another place where Yahweh addresses the divine council. It's in Genesis 11. Remember Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel?
Yep.
Let us go and confuse their languages.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the language he uses here in verse 6 says, this is only the beginning of what they will do. Now, therefore, nothing which they decide to do shall be out of their reach.
Yep.
Once they've connected with these divine beings, these rebellious divine beings, come, let us go down there, confuse their language. So the building of the Tower of at Babel is a sin against God, because it's an effort to move into the divine world, the divine domain.
Yep.
The threatened loss of creature limits leads in both instances to the judging activity of God.
Yeah.
Major upheaval, flood, scattering.
Yep.
Now we have this Sodom and Gomorrah thing. I think this is the only possible explanation for God just smoking the two cities, the
Yeah.
whole valley.
And
It's
see,
just
and I
no,
wonder
we're
if-
not going to do this.
I wonder if there's some kind of connection there too, because the ark was covered in pitch, the Tower of Babel was covered
Complete
in pitch,
connection. Yes.
and the whole valley was covered in pitch
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
there's got to be some kind of connection there.
Remember the Tower of Babel? They baked their bricks.
Yeah, they
and
made it
used
waterproof.
God-proof, earthquake-proof. I mean, everything that all God's judgments they were trying to protect against.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I know, and of course, right here in Sodom and Gomorrah, they think they got a corner on the market, man.
Yeah.
We are communicating with the gods here,
Yeah.
and they're going to make us powerful, and they're going to make so this only evil always kind of concept is here. It's not just evil because of bad behavior.
Yeah.
It's not because it's like the Wild Wild West where everybody's shooting everybody.
Yeah.
This is trying to
Spiritual.
cross the line
Yeah.
Spiritual.
into the divine world.
Yep.
Because if we do that, then we're going to rule the world.
Yeah.
And I really think that's exactly what we're doing here. He says,
it makes me wonder in a more modern, it's more modern, like close to our time, but I almost wonder, a guy like Hitler, its goal is to pretty much conquer the world.
He dabbled in the occult.
Yes.
yes, he did.
So that's where it's like, man, because I definitely believe in I believe in the stuff, that demonic influence, those kind of elements like that.
Well,
Yep.
Makes me, that's what kind of popped in my head.
this is just me. I believe a lot of people dabble in the occult, and I think God will only let them go so far.
Well, and some of them end up in a place that God's not going to allow humans to cross over in
Right.
their human state.
Yeah.
We will be part of the divine world in the new heaven and the new earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's our destiny.
Yeah.
He says that you will rule angels. In other words, you will occupy a spot higher than angels.
Yeah.
But he says here, Genesis 11, just like Genesis 3, reflects a decree within the assembly to create human disorder for the sake of cosmic order.
Yeah.
The confusion among humankind to inhibit the breakdown of the orderly relationship between divine and human worlds. So God's going to cause a problem for the humans when the humans are trying to cause a problem in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. To restore order a little higher up the chain.
Yeah.
Which would make so much sense why it's so hard for us to see the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too: when God sends the Israelites into the Promised Land and tells them to wipe out certain people groups
Yeah.
and not touch other people groups,
Yeah.
this is the ones that God tells them to wipe out
Remnants of Nephilim.
are the ones that are actively trying to cross over into the divine world.
Yep.
So do you think that could happen again? Do you think if like you had a group and they were so like I'll pick on California again here because it's just so darn easy.
It's easy.
But if they were legitimately like trying to communicate to break through and all that, do you think it could reach a point where God's like, all right, man?
I think it's happened over and over and over again.
Yeah.
When you look at the Roman Empire, when you look at the Greek Empire, when you look at all these, even the German Empire, when you see all these empires start reaching for occult knowledge, because we know, the Athenians and the Greeks, they were all about their gods, same
Yeah.
with Romans and stuff like that.
Man, I sure am glad we're a Christian nation.
Well, when you see these people at the highlight of their power, it's the highlight of their godlessness, but
Yeah.
also false god fullness.
Yeah.
And you see these empires crumble, and I think that's probably why, because a lot of people want to play, we talk about it all the time with Ouija boards and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but once it starts to get real, I think that's when God draws the line.
Yeah.
To seize the opportunity, or to seize the perceived opportunity to cross the line into the divine world, to become illicitly divine,
Right.
or to be able to partake in. Now, this is the very interesting thing is when Peter talks about he's talking about God, and he says that we are partakers of the divine nature.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a right way and a wrong way to do this stuff.
That's right.
And so yes, when as followers of Jesus, belonging to Yahweh, we participate in the divine all the time. We were
That's
just
right.
talking about it in Ephesians. We are seated with Him in heavenly places. We have dual citizenship.
Yeah.
You talked about it. It must have been a year or two ago when you were talking about every time we say a prayer that sets off
Yes.
a cosmic bomb.
That's it.
You know what
That's
I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's very true.
Absolutely, it is.
And it's funny is because we see this with Abraham. It's Abraham's essentially his prayer that keeps Lot alive.
Absolutely,
It's him.
Absolutely.
It's him talking
Yeah.
with God.
Yeah.
And that's the only. And it says in there, there's like for Abraham's
Yep.
sake.
I feel like-
lived.
I feel like this is like the grandma that's been praying for like 50
Absolutely.
years
Yes.
over.
Look,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, man, I've told this story a dozen times, and I will always tell it every time I get the opportunity. The day I got saved, my grandmother called me and told me I was a 30-year prayer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Like literally, that
You
was
were her lot.
That was the first thing she told me was you were a 30-year prayer.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The story wraps up with sunshine and butterflies and
Yeah.
roses and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody, they live happily ever after.
Yep.
No,
Yes.
that's not what happens.
No,
With smoke and fire.
If you've ever seen the movie
Oh, my gosh.
Life with Eddie Murphy, Lot is can't get right.
that is so true. If you finish out chapter 19, and once again, we'll do our best to keep it PG here. But he went up from Zoar. He decides he can't stay in Zoar.
Yeah.
So he ends up going up to the cave anyway.
Where he didn't want to go.
Where he didn't want to go, and he stayed in a cave. He and his two daughters, and these two daughters talk to each other, and they go, "There's no one for us to continue the family line with."
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's a bad. I don't like where their mind's going already.
see, and
Let's get him drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, they just escaped this, and they're going, "Hey, I don't have no man now," And the weird thing about it was they were about to marry pagans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you weren't concerned about it then. Anyway. So they're bound to determine. Each one of them, one right after the other, gets their dad so drunk that he says that he doesn't know when they rose up or when they went to bed. He has no clue about this. Now,
That darn non-fermented grape juice, it'll get you, man.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though. It's sparing the details.
yeah.
That both sisters
Yeah.
are the lineage of the Moabs,
So, okay.
the Moabites, and the Ammonites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. So they both get pregnant by their dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got some questions here. Cause, okay, Lot, why are you drinking all the wine they bring you?
Yeah.
I mean, what is that all about?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just gonna get,
Schnacker.
I'm telling you,
butt faced.
I'm questioning Lot pretty hard.
I know.
Just
It's what I'm talking about.
his judgment of remaining in Sodom and all these. That's where I don't know about old Lot.
I know, and apparently his daughters are following in his footsteps because
Yeah.
they're just taking every kind of shortcut that they possibly can. Where's Abraham? Why don't they just go find Abraham? And there's other people. I mean, it's just like they just cannot do anything right here.
Yeah.
You know what's funny too with all these lineages is anytime that people go outside the will of the Lord, like you take Isaac and Ishmael, you have the Ishmaelites, and then you take this situation, you have the Moabites and the Ammonites. Every time people go outside the will of the Lord, it is fruitful, but it's fruitful in the way you don't want to be,
You get another
Yeah.
ite.
right?
Yeah.
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 That's where the termites came from and the parasites came
Yes.
from. But so the language here at the end of this chapter is, they made their father drink. They made their father drink wine that night. And the older
Gave him a
arose, lay
funnel.
with them. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. So then the younger one does the same thing. It says in verse 36, thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. And the firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And as for the younger, she also bore a son and called his name
Ammon.
Ben-Ami. He is the father of the sons of Ammon to this day. So we have the Moabites, the Ammonites. Now, this is the weird thing.
And they can't get right.
So this is when it finally gets weird. is what you're
Okay.
saying.
the
Well-
Moabites, the Ammonites, and they can't get right.
Yeah.
But here, it ends with a very strange and weird and ironic detail. Because, and I read this one commentator that said, well, if it wasn't for what Lot's daughters did, there would be a different baby laying in the manger in Bethlehem. Because
That's true.
That is.
the
That is
Moabites, Ruth was a Moabite.
Yep.
Ruth is in the lineage of Jesus. Now, of course, that's tongue in cheek because God makes things happen.
Oh yeah. He'd have orchestrated it.
Absolutely.
And again, I think we always talk about God holding out for the greater glory, and
Yeah.
this is the master redeemer, right?
Yeah.
And we see him. If that's not a testament to how great Jesus is to redeeming, like, he even reaches way back here. It's like, yo, yeah, Lot, your
Yeah.
grandkid kids.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna redeem that as well.
Yeah. And it's funny because, one of the commands to Israel is no Moabite will ever be allowed in the temple or in the temple courts It's like never, ever, ever.
Psych.
And then here comes Ruth.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, and
Did Lot want to see, like, wondering? He's like, how'd Jill get pregnant? When did that happen?
No, they just kept making him drink wine.
Yeah.
see those are all the questions I have about Lot, because and honestly, I think we can get a large window into Lot's character or lack of it.
Lack of,
In all of these scenarios.
Yep.
It's, you look at like all the way back in chapter 13, it's like Abram brings this guy along because he's his nephew, and he says, hey, you pick. And Lot's going, I want the good land.
Yeah, give me the fertile part.
Exactly.
You can have the crappy.
Okay, so let's just spend a couple of minutes to end this on several of the other places in the Bible where Sodom and Gomorrah are named.
Okay.
Because I think we accurately identified the reason why God wiped them out.
Yeah.
But
Which changed my view of a lot of it.
well, once you kind of look underneath the surface, there's stuff in there. But also, well, we have to ask ourselves, what led them to this point? What was the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah? And of course, the go-to for forever and ever and ever, we have the term sodomy, so it's it's because of their, homosexual behavior and all this kind of stuff. But that's not really.
And that's what I always thought.
Yeah.
But now the whole Nephilim thing, that really makes more sense.
It absolutely does. It makes sense of the severity of the judgment.
Yeah.
That's the key sort of factor in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the way through, especially the Old Testament, all the way through the New Testament, Paul talks about this stuff all the time. There are four main categories of sin that are particularly detestable to God.
Okay.
And I think that when Sodom and Gomorrah this became baked into their culture, this is what led them to their lust for power and all this stuff. And of course, there's idolatry, there's sexual immorality in general. Now, the homosexual activity was not a root cause; it was a symptom.
Yeah.
Also that they misused their great wealth and neglected the poor and the widows and the orphans. That's a big deal with God. But more than anything, it was this desire for empire.
Yep.
That's the same thing with Babylon or Babel, and same thing we get to the
Before Noah.
Well, in the kingdoms, the beasts that Daniel talks about, it's going to be Assyria, and it's going to be Babylon.
Beast of the
also.
nations.
So God's going to bring them down every time because it's that empire. So I want to finish with a couple of scriptures here that will be very enlightening. Pat, get Ezekiel 16:49 and 50. Ezekiel 16:49 and 50.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Behold, this was the guilt of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had arrogance, abundance, food, and careless ease, but she did not help the poor and needy. Thus they were haughty and committed abominations before me. Therefore I removed them when I saw it.
Now, some people will say, stop making this about sexual immorality. That had nothing to do with anything. It's only because of a lack of biblical hospitality and generosity. That it says this was the sin of Sodom. Just because but you can't ignore the idolatry and the sexual immorality and all this stuff that's bundled with it.
Yeah.
Some people will say this is why we should take on a new view of human sexuality because sexual sin had nothing to do with the thing in Sodom and Gomorrah. It was just a power play,
Yeah.
But I ain't buying it. Buying it.
Well, I mean, it says point blank,
Well-
the arrogance, abundance of food, and careless ease. And she did not help the poor and needy.
And
Yeah.
we're talking about committing abominations,
Yep.
that which was not exclusively sexual sin, but was certainly included.
Yep.
So, Logan, read Jude. Jude 6. There's only one chapter, so 6 through 9, verses 6 through 9.
Let me find her here.
Pat, you get 2 Peter 2,
Okay.
verses 4 through 10. You get the long passage.
You said Jude 6 through 9?
6 through 9.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough chapter to find.
It is. It's only, It's only one.
And you said 2 Peter 2.
Oh,
right?
wait, hold on. Let me
Peter
get,
2,
let me
4
get
through
out of the message here. All right. Here you go. 6
Okay.
through 9.
Yeah.
And angels who did not keep their own domain, but abandoned their proper abode. He has kept in eternal bonds under darkness for the judgment of the great day.
Now, he's talking about Genesis 6 in that one.
Okay.
Okay. But then go on.
Just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them, since they in the same way as these indulged in gross immorality and went after strange flesh, are exhibited as an example in undergoing the punishment of eternal fire. Yet in the same way these men also by dreaming defile the flesh and reject authority and revile angelic majesties. But Michael the archangel, when he disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, did not dare pronounce judgment or pronounce against him a railing judgment, but said, "The Lord rebuke you."
Okay, so there's a couple of keys in there. By dreaming, that's aspiration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, they went after strange flesh.
Yep.
Now, some people will interpret that as same sex,
Yeah.
but the actual word for strange flesh is flesh that is not human.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So how does that not? And it also says in the same way.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the same way, they went after strange flesh as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any other way to kind of piece that together.
I don't either. I mean, it wouldn't make sense grammatically.
No, and the image is right there. I mean, it's like once you imagine that, that fits better than any other kind of way to read that.
Yeah.
So read yours.
Okay, 2 Peter 2, verse 4 through 10 says, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them into pits of darkness, reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, and he brought the flood upon the world of the ungodly. And if he condemns the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, have made them an example to those who would live ungodly lives thereafter. And if he rescued righteous Lot, oppressed by the sensual conduct of unprincipled men, for by what he saw and heard that righteous men, while living among them, felt his righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds, then the Lord knows how to rescue the ungodly from temptation, and to keep the unrighteous under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who indulge in the flesh of its corrupt desires and despise authority, daring self-willed, they do not tremble when they revile angelic majesties."
Revile angelic majesties. There you go. There's a clue. So does Peter think that there was sexual immorality somewhere in the mix?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd say he's pretty
Yeah.
forthcoming
I
about
love the
that.
way you said it, though. It was a symptom, not the cause.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's one of the things.
And here's the interesting thing about this passage in 2 Peter is he says the righteous Lot. That Lot was righteous. And I suppose in comparison to people that were around him, he probably was. And it says he was actually in distress and despair over all the things that were going on around him. And I believe that's probably true.
Yeah.
But then he says, if God will rescue
Lot.
Lot, then surely he's going to give you a way out of your piddly little temptations.
Yeah,
you know?
and I love that he says, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from temptation.
That's exactly.
I'm gonna read the message version of this Jude one.
Do it.
I just thought it was interesting. The master saved a people out of the land of Egypt. Later, he destroyed those who defected. And you know the story of the angels who didn't stick to their post, abandoning it for other darker missions. But they are now chained and jailed in a black hole until the great judgment day. Sodom and Gomorrah, which went to sexual rack and ruin along with the surrounding cities that acted just like them, are another example. Burning and never burning up, they serve still as a stock warning.
Man.
This is exactly the same program of these latest infiltrators. Dirty sex, rule and rulers thrown out, glory dragged in the mud. And I like this. The archangel Michael, who went to the mat with the devil.
Well,
Wow.
I mean,
As they fought over the body of Moses, wouldn't have dared level him with a blasphemous curse, but said simply, "No, you don't. God will take care of you."
well, I mean, Jesus even talks about it when, was it Capernaum?
Yeah, Capernaum. In fact, I'll read those real quick before we wrap up here. He says, he's sending the disciples out, and he says, whoever does not receive you nor heed your words as you go out of that house or that city, shake off the dust of your feet. Truly, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city.
Yeah.
And then he comes back to it, and he's speaking directly to Capernaum. And he says, and you, Capernaum, will not be exalted to heaven, will you? Now, isn't that crossing the line?
Yep.
You shall descend to Hades. Before, if the miracles had occurred in Sodom, which occurred in you, it would have remained to this day.
That's right.
Yeah.
How about that?
Hey, our boy Balaam got mentioned too in that.
I know. He's right there.
He is, yes. And rushed headlong into the error of Balaam.
That's it. And then I'll kind of finish with this one, because this one is it's quite interesting, because Jesus, this is in Luke 17, Jesus is talking about the last days, and he says, it's just like it was in the days of Noah, right?
Yeah.
Just like just as it happened in the days of Noah, so it shall be also in the days of the Son of Man. They were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, they were being given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all.
Yeah.
It was the same as happened in the days of Lot. They were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the day that Lot went out from Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just the same on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. And then he goes on that day, let not the one who's on the housetop and whose goods are in the house go down to take them away. And then he just says in verse 32, remember Lot's wife.
Yeah, that's all you got to say. Remember Lot's wife.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember her?
Yeah.
You remember her?
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, whoever seeks to keep his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it. So whoever seeks to keep his life shall turn into a pillar of salt.
Yes.
Remember Lot's
wife.
Yeah.
That needs to make the
I was
t-shirt.
going to say, that needs to make a shirt.
And
just remember Lot's wife.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I thought about this too, because the word Sodom and sodium.
Oh.
You know what's missing in that?
What?
I.
Yeah.
You.
Me, am. Well, yeah.
But
You and I.
Yeah. You and I. That's exactly
And then
right.
get rid of the O.
So that is the weirdness of Sodom and Gomorrah. Did we sufficiently ring that one out?
I think we did.
think
That's
so.
actually changed. That
Yeah.
really actually changed my perspective on it.
It's weird though.
Yeah.
It is weird.
I mean, it is.
But it's more to it. I mean, I honestly just thought it was a bunch of dudes being weirdos.
I know.
It's
I know.
funny is because like so many people think it's a judgment thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there is judgment in it.
Yeah.
But it's really showing God's mercy because like, think about, I always go back to Abraham, right? He's like, well, 50, 45, 30, 35, 20. Like, he works his...
let me hear 15,
Yeah,
15, 15,
yeah,
15,
yeah.
5.
He works his way down, and you know that as soon as he said 50, God's just like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to say this. And it's funny because once he gets to 10, God's like, all right, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'm leaving. And knowing good and well, there's only going to be 4 that comes out, and only 3 of those make it out.
Yeah.
And we always say, we said it in youth group, right? If you would have been the only person on earth, Jesus would have come and died for you, which is true.
Yeah.
But
he might would have vaporized us with the meteor.
Abraham didn't go there. He was not a good youth pastor.
Yeah.
He was not.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, well, if there were 10.
Yeah. He's
exactly.
like, actually, it's got to be 10 of you.
Surely there's got to be.
Yeah. And if you turn around and look.
Well, and he's thinking, okay, let me count on my fingers. Let's see. There's Lot. There's his wife. There's his 2 daughters. That's 4.
Yeah.
And then there's the 2 son-in-laws. Surely there,
He's like, yeah, man.
that's 6.
What's funny is even in this, I don't remember which passage it was. I think it was 2 Peter that it said Noah and 7. That it was 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just well, there's got to be this certain amount. 7 people.
Yeah.
7 people.
That's it.
Yeah. We need a shirt that says "Remember Lot's wife."
Yeah,
that
that's
is
great.
a bad to the bone. That would make a great shirt.
And then just have like a salt shaker.
You
on it.
could, yeah.
Remember Lot's wife.
Put our logo on the front.
Yeah.
Put that on the back.
Put the Morton's girl on there.
Yes.
Do it. Yes, please. I'm in.
only make her gray.
Gray, yes.
Yeah.
She has been turned into like
Yeah.
a stone.
But you
look.
gotta have like fire in the background.
Yeah. When it rains, it pours.
Yes.
That is so good.
Man, I love it. Well, this has been it's been a good story.
That has.
We covered a lot of ground in this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That one was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Now, we're going to do at least one more weird things in the Bible.
Okay.
And we'll do more later, but we're going to make a transition into Revelation Part 1.
All right.
Oh.
All right.
I'm going to be teaching Revelation, and I'm splitting it into 3 parts.
Okay.
So we have an 8-week slot that I'll be teaching on Wednesday nights, and so we're going to be covering all the ground
Yeah.
on the podcast. And then people who go through the Wednesday night session can watch the podcast when it comes out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
Cool.
it can be like, and then, well, anyway. So we're going to go through, we're going to do 7 chapters at a time, ish, in 8 weeks. So I'll do an intro session and then through chapter 7. And then we'll pick it back up when we start again at the first of the year. So that'll be Revelation Part 2. That's the meaty section. That's where the helicopters come in. And then we'll get on to the last third part with the new heaven, new earth, when the battle of Armageddon and all
So
that
we'll
stuff.
pretty much be in Revelation then for the rest of the year on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, no, it will go in sections.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to track along with the teaching session. So we'll go 8 weeks, and then we'll get back to our weird things in the Bible, and then we'll get into Christmas.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And then at first of the year, we'll pick back up on Revelation Part 2, and we'll teach through that. And then we'll take another break, and then we'll finish it out in Part 3.
Sounds good.
Gotcha.
So we're not. I don't really want to stay in Revelation for 22 weeks.
Yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot.
And then I also don't want to rush through it.
Yeah.
I don't want to take 3 chapters at a time.
Yeah.
Because then we don't really get a chance to really look into it.
Right.
So we're just going to go slow, but we're going to go in sections. And so expect that we're going to do 8 episodes in a row on Revelation. You want to tune in for that, and then we'll do some more weird stuff, and then we've got a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
In the works. So thank you for tuning into this one.
Yeah.
And that's why it pays to study your Bible, right?
That's right.
Yes.
And it
does.
also pays to hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button, hit the bell, leave us some comments.
Yep.
Yeah, or you'll be destroyed. By
You will.
fire.
Yes. Yes. And guys, remember Lot's wife.
Remember Lot's wife.